A breast pump is more than just a suction machine. Otherwise, you could just use a vacuum cleaner to suck milk out, right? But why do you get 4 ounces with this pump and only 2 with your other one? Why does this pump feel too strong while this one feels like it's doing nothing? And why does one pump work great for somebody else and not so great for you? Most people and marketing, to be honest, only compare maximum suction of single-sided pumping. But that is the biggest mistake you can make because there are so many other important things that are going on. In this video, we're going to talk about all the things that make a breast pump unique. So if you're trying to choose one for the first time, or if you're wondering why your second pump isn't working as well for you, let's match up some of those settings and figure out what's actually happening so you can have more success. Plus, I'll show you a behind the scenes tool that you can actually use to compare settings and breast pumps using the data that we've collected at New Little Life. No more guessing. If you're new here, my name's Allison Tolman. I'm a breast pump expert and a coach for working moms. We've spent thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours testing breast pumps with custom built devices like this one so that you don't have to guess anymore. We've tested over 100 breast pumps using this precision tool called the Booby Barometer. This is actually version 2. We've been doing this for a lot of years, and thank you to our community who named this the Booby Barometer. I've published peer-reviewed research on this data. I've spoken at international conferences, been interviewed by the Washington Post, all because of what we discovered when we were testing breast pumps, and we found that it is so much more than a maximum suction. It's really changed the way that we should be thinking about breast pumps and pumping. What I've learned from all of this is all pumps function differently, but why? How? That's what we're going to be looking at. So let's talk about the 3 most important metrics that make breast pumps unique. And then I'll show you a tool that I have for you, and you can do this on your own using all of our data. Everyone obsesses over maximum suction numbers. Like, this pump goes up to 350 mmHg, as if that makes it an amazing option for you and going to get so much more milk. Here's what's wrong with only comparing maximum suction. First, most pumps fall into a really similar range of suction anyway. Most pumps are about between 250 and 350 mmHg across most pumps. That's not a huge difference at the end of the day, and it's also plenty of suction. In fact, I would never put 350 millimeters mercury of suction on my own breasts. It's a lot. Second, sometimes you're comparing apples and oranges. All right, the number might be from single-sided pumping, but this other number might be from a dual motor pump or a wearable pump. So in my testing, pumps tested very differently, depending on if you were single pumping or double pumping. A pump that hits 300 mmHg single-sided pumping might only hit 220 when you're double pumping, which is how most moms are using their breast pumps. But dual motor pumps or wearable pumps are gonna have the same suction on each side, right? Here's a list of breast pumps that all test over 300 millimeters mercury on suction when you're single-sided pumping, okay? But once we start double pumping, which is how most moms are using a breast pump, these are the only ones that survive. Only the Spectra Synergy Gold can get 300 millimeters mercury when you're double-sided pumping. That's because this is a dual motor pump. It's a workhorse, it's a beast. Now, don't let that dissuade you that all these other pumps are terrible. Again, suction is not the only metric, and that's a lot of suction. I would never max that out on myself. That would be insane. So I'm going to open up our custom tool now and show you a little bit about how it works. You can find access to this tool and other breast pump data in our full breast pump data library. I'll put the link down below in the description for you. By the way, be nice and respectful of this data. Okay, I'm sharing this with you. Don't copy it. Don't share it with others. Don't put it online. It's meant to help you, so don't abuse it or I'll have to remove it, and that's not fun for anyone. Okay, so here we are in our breast pump comparison tool, and you can see I have it set to single-sided suction in expression mode. You can see that these pumps all hold up pretty well. The Spectra actually has some of the highest suction in expression mode when we're single pumping. The Baby Buddha holds up really well as well. But when I change it to double pumping expression mode, you'll notice that the Spectra now is quite a bit lower than the Baby Buddha. Again, this range of suction is a lot. That's a lot of suction. So again, not many people are maxing out the Spectra on level 12. So you can see that this much suction is probably unnecessary. But you can see how much that changed the suction on these 2 pumps in particular when we switched from single to double pumping. I'm going to switch back to single pumping. I want you to watch this LV column here to see if it switches much, because it probably shouldn't. Sorry, I had to reload the data there. But it is exactly the same on single and double pumping mode because it's a wearable pump. You have a motor on both sides, right? Again, the Arto Alyssa here at the end, you'll notice also doesn't change much at all. And that's because the Arto Alyssa, it's actually not a dual motor pump. It's a small portable or tabletop pump, somewhere in between there. But the pump is designed to run the same suction on single and double pumping. And that's part of the programming on the inside. So not only do you have the quality of the pump parts and what it can do, you have dual motor pumps, whether that's a wearable or an actual dual motor pump, but then you also have the programming that's running on the pump. Some pumps like the Arto Alyssa is very well made. It's designed to run the same suction on both. Not a ton of pumps do that, to be honest. The Arto Alyssa the company did that on purpose, and I thought that was really fantastic of them. But this is a good example of, you can't compare apples and oranges, right? The maximum suction number doesn't tell you much because it's usually that single-sided number for one, and not that suction is the most important metric anyway, but we will get to that shortly. Okay, so number one is most pumps fall in a really similar range. Number two is single-sided versus double-sided pumping, gives you some confusion in that number. Number three is most moms pump somewhere between 120 and 175 mmHg anyway. So who cares if the pump goes to 300 and another one goes to 350? Like, you don't need that much suction, right? You're not using these pumps at the maximum suction, and more suction is not always better. In fact, sometimes it causes problems. We have another video on the channel talking about that. Number four problem this causes is this is often the only piece of data that you can find. All right, pump companies love to advertise this number because it sounds high and impressive, but it tells you almost nothing about how the pump actually feels or functions. And five, there are so many other important factors beyond suction. Babies are complex in how they remove milk, and so are breast pumps. Suction strength alone does not make a good breast pump. The next metric that's important to look at when you're looking at a breast pump is cycle speed. This one is crucial for initiating letdowns, which is a very intentional process when you're pumping. Your letdown is a trained reflex, okay? And it is trained to the sensations that it feels when it is trying to initiate a biological response, a hormonal response to send your milk down and out. So for example, the Medela Symphony runs at 120 cycles per minute in stimulation mode. That's the mode we're using to stimulate a letdown. Super fast. A Spectra runs at only 70 cycles per minute in stimulation mode to stimulate a letdown. Both of these are great pumps that many mothers love, have a lot of success with, but you might find it difficult to switch between these two really fantastic pump options and get similar milk output. If your body learned to respond to a rhythm and a speed for a letdown, and then you switch to a slower one or one that feels quite different, your letdown might not trigger in the same way. It's like switching between a fast song and a slow song when you're listening to music. Your body can tell the difference. So this is why moms who maybe loved using the Symphony in the hospitals sometimes struggle with their pump when they get at home. Why a portable pump may not be getting you as much milk as your tabletop pump. And it's a big area of improvement when we're looking at using wearable pumps more efficiently. It's not necessarily that one pump is better or worse. It's speaking a different language to your body, and that's confusing. I will say sometimes pumps are actually better or worse, but more often than not, it comes down to programming differences. Okay, here we are back in our comparison tool again. Again, you can have access to play with this same tool inside our breast pump data library, but we are on cycle speed and stimulation mode, which is what we've been talking about. You can see that the Medela Symphony is running a pretty fast cycle speed, about 120 cycles per minute. Fast cycle speeds do tend to work really well. The Spectra is running a lot slower cycle speed at 70 cycles per minute in stimulation mode. The Spectra is also a really great pump. So again, faster speeds is not always the best option or a better pump, but a letdown is a trained reflex. I've said that before. I'm going to say it again. It matters what you train it to do, right? So this is why, again, you can see that it might be tricky to switch back and forth between these pumps just because that's a really different sensation for your body. Some pumps give you the option to choose cycle speeds. For example, the Arto Alyssa on suction levels 1 through 8, you can pick which cycle speeds you want. all right, because it gives you the option to adjust that up and down. Some pumps have that capability, which can be kind of fun. Sometimes having a lot more settings to choose from can be stressful and overwhelming, but I like to see options when you can choose. So you actually can run this pump pretty quickly if you want, or if you like it slower, like a Spectra, you can run it that way as well. And sometimes cycle speed is tied to suction strength. And this happens pretty frequently actually with especially portable pumps and wearable pumps. Again, not all, we can't lump them all in that category, but this is not uncommon. There's quite a few tabletop pumps that do this as well, just to be honest. So for example, if you start in stimulation mode on suction level 1, it's 100 cycles per minute. But if you move up the suction, the speed is going to go down. So if you end up on level 6, which is the highest suction here, the speed is much lower. All right. And so that's just something to be aware of as well, is that this one is directly tied to suction. So if fast cycle speed is really important to you, just know on this pump that you're going to be limited on how high you can go with the suction because they're inversely correlated, if that makes sense. So why does this matter? Because getting multiple letdowns and quickly during a pumping session is a key step to efficient milk removal. If you struggle with this, you'll likely be leaving milk behind, or pumping takes a really long time. So cycle speed is really important. We didn't even cover the expression mode speeds, but those range really widely too, from about 8 to 60. So we can have another conversation on that if you'd like, but this is a really important concept to understand here about cycle speeds. Now we've covered suction strength and cycle speed, but there's a hidden game changer here as well, and that is suction pattern. This is where everything clicks. 3 pumps all at 80 mmHg and 80 cycles per minute should feel identical, right? Wrong. So we're on a different sheet here on our comparison tool. So we were over here, now we're here. You can see the patterns of pumps on this sheet here. So you can see that the Super Genie goes straight up and down, like really classic up and down pattern. This one ramps up a little bit more slowly and then drops. And this one actually doesn't even go all the way back down to 0. As you can see, this is a constant suction style. And this one goes up quickly, holds a little bit, and then comes back down. Right. So even if you found the exact same suction strength or even something really similar, like those are all going to feel very similar on these 3 pumps and the same cycle speeds, these 3 pumps would feel very different. And you can see that in the graphs here. The time that your nipple is under suction is completely different as well for each of these pumps. And so you can imagine about how these might feel different on your body. Same numbers, different sensations. If we come down here and look at the cycle speeds, you can see these are pretty different as well. So you can actually find the exact same speed in stimulation mode on all 3 of these pumps. You get to pick it on the Super Genie. It's level 25 on the Limerick Joy. The Limerick Joy is kind of a very unique pump. And you can also choose it on the Artoisa. So you can get 80 cycles per minute exactly on all 3 of these pumps. But look at how different these graphs look. All right. This one is a very short, like up down break. The Limerick Joy, this is actually on the fastest. This graph is from the fastest cycle speed that it does, which just was kind of fun to show you, but it's really fast. And again, constant suction. You can see it's not going all the way down to 0 here, which is important. And then this one is coming up. You've got that gentle release down and then all the way down. So even though the numbers are the same, the patterns are different. These will feel different. And again, can you imagine if your letdown was trained to this middle one and then suddenly you switched to this one on the next session and then maybe you ended your day on this one? No wonder your body would be confused. Here are 3 other options just for fun. This is the Baby Buddha. It's got this classic 10 small bursts and then 1 long pull. That's a lot of suction. It's going to feel very specific, right? You've got the Zomi 2, which actually does an alternating suction. So you can see here it's going left, right, left, right, left, right. That's going to feel pretty different as well. And the Amita Elite is one of our piston pumps. This one is going to feel really gentle and really rolling. You can kind of see the pattern here is very rolling, very rhythmic. There's very little space between the breaks here. So again, this is just kind of fun to play with and see because it really gives you a visual of how these pumps might feel different, even if all the numbers match exactly. Breast pump companies don't typically publish all of these details, and the handful that do, you really have to dig for it. They focus usually on maximum suction in their marketing because it's an easy number to understand and you're just comparing numbers. The highest is the best, right? But they don't usually publish cycle speeds, patterns, things like that. And there is also zero standardization across the industry. Pumping is complex, and if you're feeling confused at this point, don't worry, we've got some resources to help make it more simple for you. So, what do you actually need to know? That's what we're going to find out here. I have spent hundreds of hours, like I said, every year testing breast pumps myself because this data simply doesn't exist anywhere else. And to be able to share thoughtful and meaningful information with you about breast pumps, we need to know how they work, and they're complex, as we just learned. I use multiple gauges, our Booby Barometer, graphs, tools to assess what's actually happening. Because I have found when you can match settings between breast pumps, magic happens. Instead of taking weeks to adjust to a new pump or never adjusting at all and ending up with a pile of breast pumps that don't work well for you, you can often transition in a few days if we can match up settings better. I had a mom who was getting 4 ounces with her Spectra and only 2 ounces with her wearable pump. Okay, which, well, you know, if you've been on this channel, wearable pumps can be a little bit less efficient. But for me, something wasn't right here. That seemed like too big of a difference. So we found similar cycle speeds between the pumps and adjusted the suction strength as well as close as possible. Within 3 days, she was getting 3.5 ounces with her wearable. Okay, and 4 with her Spectra, which is pretty close, and we were really happy with that. Again, there's another video on the channel about wearable pumps and the efficiency kind of things there, but this is a really good example of how you can get much closer just by starting with similar settings. Another client that I was working with inside of our coaching program was using a standard pump and a portable pump that had a super different suction pattern and cycle speeds. And the suction levels were similar. We could get similar suction strength, but she was really struggling with her portable pump because it produced so much less milk. In this case, we actually ended up switching her to a different portable pump that was much closer in all areas to her traditional pump that was already working well. And her output ended up being identical on both. She was able to use either of those, no problem. So here's what we're doing scientifically, okay? We're reducing variables. Your letdown is trainable, but when everything is changing throughout the day or all at once, your body gets confused. So by matching what we can match, we give your body the best chance at responding and recognizing a new pump. I haven't done much research on this area, but I do think there might be some correlation too with how a baby feeds at your breast and the type of breast pump that you're using there. I'm not sure how we match those up, but I suspect anecdotally that this may be why sometimes a mom puts on a pump and it just is hard. It might be really different than what her baby is doing at their breast. I don't know, just a theory. So if you end up playing with that tool a little bit, looking at your different breast pumps, instead of having your body adjust to new suction strength, new cycle speed, and new patterns all at once or even multiple times throughout the day, instead see what you can match up. If you can match at least 2 of the variables and ask your body to only adapt to one change at a time, that may be the best bet, and you may be able to come up with a plan that actually works. You can access this custom comparison tool inside our breast pump data library, and I'll show you more how it works inside the library as well. One of my favorite ways to use this tool really is to compare breast pump settings. So it will give you specific recommendations. If you're using a level 6 suction on your Spectra in expression mode, try a level 4 on the Willow Go, because that will be a very similar suction strength. And those 2 breast pumps have really similar patterns as well. The speeds are not exact, but similar-ish. And again, that's what you're going for. It's unlikely you'll be able to match up everything on 2 breast pumps, so don't try and do that. But it can take a lot of the guesswork out. And it's not just 2 pumps, you can compare your whole arsenal. Or if you're looking at breast pumps to buy for the first time, you can plug those in and compare them as well. That way you can figure out, how do I use my Spectra at home, my Willow Go at work, my Baby Buddha for travel. I'm just throwing out random pumps here, by the way. That tool can map out the equivalent settings across them all. Now, be smart in how you use it. You can't always just say, well, the spreadsheet told me to go to suction level 8, so I did, and now I have nipple damage. Like, don't do that. Okay, listen to your body. If the suction is too high, it's too high. Don't forget that every pump functions and feels differently. You can probably go all the way up the suction level on the LV pump because it feels so gentle. But if you tried to match that suction on another pump, it might be way too much. And that's when you have to start using your brain and kind of thinking through, okay, what other things can I match up here? And at least give you some understanding of what's going on there. So anyway, take it. It's just a spreadsheet, guys. So don't be causing damage using that tool. I think it can give you a lot of understanding and peace of mind though. So now I have to be honest, sometimes a wearable pump just is not going to match your traditional pump perfectly. Even if the settings and patterns and speeds are perfect, wearables just are tricky. But sometimes we trade efficiency for convenience, and that's fine too. There's another video down talking about that. But wouldn't you rather know exactly what you're working with instead of just having to guess? Right? So tell me in the comments, what pump combinations are you working with? I love to see how creative you guys get in your setups. If you're tired of playing guessing games with your pumps, we've got other resources for you too as well. They're all down below. It's a free breast pump course that will help you choose a breast pump, which dives a lot more into these metrics that we talked about in this video. Go check out that breast pump data library. Your future self, the one who switches between pumps seamlessly without missing a beat, will thank you. And remember, pumping is an art, but it doesn't have to be a mystery. I'll see you in the next video. Happy pumping.